Welcome back. Today, we're diving into something really different, a totally fresh take on conservation coming out of one of Africa's most iconic landscapes, the Greater Kruger. Now, you might think this is all about protecting wildlife, and it is, but the twist is, it starts by asking a much more fundamental question. How do we protect people first? It's a fascinating story, so let's get right into it.
All right, so let's start with a question for you. What's the connection between normalized violence, people stealing livestock, and wildlife poaching? I mean, at first glance, they seem like totally separate issues, right? One's a social problem, one's a local crime, one's an international issue. But what if I told you they're all tangled together? They're actually symptoms of a much bigger problem, a crisis of security that's threatening an entire ecosystem.
And that's where this huge idea comes in. It's the heart of what we're talking about today, landscape-level security. It sounds a bit academic, but the principle is actually super simple and, honestly, kind of profound. Think about it. You just can't have safe rhinos and elephants if the people living right next to them are living in fear. The safety of the people, the wildlife, and the land itself, they're not separate things. They're all part of one big, interconnected system. And here's the kicker. If one part of that system breaks, the whole thing starts to fall apart. So to really get why this idea is such a game changer, we have to look at what's actually happening on the ground. We need to understand the day-to-day reality. Recently, a pretty groundbreaking workshop brought people together from all these communities living around the Greater Kruger National Park. And what they had to say, well, it paints a really, really stark picture. Okay, so instead of just talking, they used these incredibly powerful role-playing exercises. And what came out was just, wow. For the people living there, violence and theft aren't shocking, exceptional events. It's just normal, part of everyday life. There's basically zero trust in the police, so people have to rely on their own local groups and elders to sort things out. And get this, women are often the ones with the best information. They're the eyes and ears of the community, but they have no real power in the decision-making. On top of all that, there's this huge communication breakdown between the communities and any official authorities. But what's really chilling, what underpins all of this, is a deep systemic fear. I mean, this quote from the report really just hits you in the gut. People are absolutely terrified to report crimes or cooperate with authorities. Why? Because they've seen it happen before. They've seen witnesses get harmed or even killed. So for them, trying to use the formal justice system isn't just a waste of time. It could literally get you killed. It's seen as actively dangerous. And we're not talking about abstract fears here. These are the real, concrete threats that people are dealing with every single day. You've got gender-based violence, so much of which is hidden away in families. You've got livestock and crop theft, and that's not just like someone stealing your car. That's someone stealing your ability to feed your family. Then there are environmental crimes, like illegal logging and sand mining, that are destroying the very land they live on. And looming over all of it is organized crime, running things through intimidation, extortion, and even murder. So, okay, faced with this landscape of fear, what do you do? Well, the workshop organizers didn't come in with a bunch of charts and pre-made solutions from the outside. No, they did something truly radical. They flipped the whole script and started from a completely different place, all based on one simple, powerful idea. And here it is. This was the core principle of the whole thing. The real experts on community safety are the community members themselves. It seems obvious, but it's revolutionary. Their lived experience, their stories, their knowledge, that was treated as the most important evidence, the most valuable data you could possibly have. And that right there was the essential first step to even begin building trust. Okay, so after everyone had shared these really difficult stories and mapped out all the problems, the workshop took a massive turn. This is where the whole energy in the room shifted. They stopped focusing on everything that was broken and started looking for what was already working. And honestly, this is where the story gets incredibly hopeful. And they used this brilliant metaphor to do it. They called it the success ingredients stew. I love that. Here's how it worked. First, people shared real stories of times when things went right. You know, a time when the community successfully stopped a theft or protected someone from harm. Then, together, they unpacked that story, piece by piece, to figure out, okay, what exactly happened here? Who did what? From there, they distilled the key ingredients that made it a success. And finally, they used those ingredients to create a recipe for success that could be used again and again. So what did they find in their stew? It's amazing. Turns out the communities already had the answers. The recipe for success wasn't some complicated high-tech solution. It was made of ingredients like early reporting, but through people and channels they actually trusted. It was about communities organizing themselves, not waiting for someone else to come and save them. And it involved practical, everyday tools they already used, like WhatsApp groups and local forums. The key takeaway? They had the recipe for their own safety all along.
All right, so now they had this powerful recipe built from their own successes. Armed with that knowledge, the workshop moved into its next and maybe most exciting phase, dreaming. They started to imagine together what a truly safe, secure community could actually look like 5 years from now. And check out this comparison. It's just incredible to see the shift from today's reality to their future vision. You go from hidden gender-based violence to a coordinated community committee actively working on prevention. You go from fragmented, broken communication to clear, trusted ways for people to report crime. The threat of poaching, that gets replaced with more real jobs in tourism and conservation, giving people better alternatives. And a culture of bribery and corruption, that gets replaced by transparent forums where everyone agrees to refuse bribes. This isn't just wishful thinking. This is a concrete vision they designed themselves. But of course, a vision is just a dream without a plan to get there. So the final day of the workshop was all about action. It was about taking these incredible ideas and turning them into a practical, step-by-step roadmap. And this is when they brought in the external partners, the NGOs, law enforcement, to make sure everyone was on the same page and bought into the plan. And this is where the communities really laid down the law. They came up with a set of core principles. Basically, they're non-negotiables for taking part. And look at these. First, work with the structures we already have. Don't just come in and create new ones. Second, our representatives have to actually talk to us before a meeting to get our input. And third, they must report back to us afterward. Feedback isn't optional, it's mandatory. And this is so important. Everyone, both the community and the outside partners, has to play by the same ethical rules. This is about a real partnership, not just ticking a box for community consultation.
So, when you boil it all down, what's the big outcome here?
Well, the workshop didn't just end with another dusty report on a shelf. It created a living, practical roadmap for building security from the ground up. And in doing so, it completely changed the power dynamic. It moved communities from being just stakeholders on a list to being recognized as what they are: essential, indispensable partners in creating their own safety.
And that brings us to the final question, the big idea I want to leave you with. For so long, we've thought of conservation in terms of fences and guards and enforcement, fortress conservation. But maybe, just maybe, this whole approach points to a completely different future. What if the best way to protect our planet's incredible wildlife isn't about building higher fences, but about building deeper trust with the people who share their home?